that is the type of stuff that excites me, you know? So there will just definitely be more of that, but more than anything, just further growth and you know, love and just loving on my family, loving on my people, loving on my community.
So we tell the stories to lift each other, give hope to push us further, and encourage one another.
Yes, it's true. You may know Jussie Smollett from the controversy in 2019 and all of the headlines. But now that all that's behind him, Jussie takes us into his beginnings as a child actor and what it was like growing up with his siblings in front of the screen and how they got their start. He talks to us about working on independent films like The Skinny, to his big break with Empire and being ready for the fame it brought. Jussie also talks to us about his coming out, his move to directing such films as B-Boy Blues, and his latest project, The Lost Holiday, along with new music he's releasing at the top of the year. Jussie proves that you are responsible for your own success no matter what obstacles you face, and no matter what, move forward. All right, you're tuned in to another episode of Behind the Scenes Beauty. I am here today. This man is a singer. He is an actor. He was a child model. I mean, he was, you know, he's a producer, he's a director, he's a writer. I mean, there are many things, but I have with me today the Jussie Smollett. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. We got you here. You had me in tears. I had to put a little makeup on.
That's all right.
To make the puffy go down in my eyes because I was watching The Lost Holiday.
Yes.
And it was amazing.
Thank you so much.
I will say this, and I'm not just saying that because you're here.
No, you keep it real. You keep it real.
I genuinely, and this is one thing I say. If I ever say this, please believe it. Honest to God, because I don't take what I say to God lightly.
I believe it.
Honest to God, it was an amazing film.
Thank you.
I also want to give you credit in saying you're an awesome filmmaker.
Thank you.
I really think you should continue to go down that road because that and B-Boy Blues were two amazing films. I feel like I'm getting ready to do this whole interlude. I'm talking more than you talking, but I'm going to just go on and get this out, and then it'll be about you.
I appreciate it.
What I liked about both of them is because I realized, because I live in Harlem,
Yeah.
I realized the budget you were working with,
Mm-hmm.
but the cinematography and the cinematic way that you did both films, especially B-Boy Blues.
Yes.
Like, it had such an artistic feel to it. So in my study, and the producer brought to me about who your influences are as a director, where you have, you know, Spike Lee and all of them, and John Singleton, I see the influence because
Thank you.
it's so artistic.
Thank you so
Now, that's it.
Thank you.
I ain't gonna give you no more.
No, that's all I could take.
I ain't gonna give you no more.
I'm so grateful.
Okay.
Thank you. No, that means a lot because it means a lot when someone, especially someone like you that I deeply respect, you know, that you see the things that maybe we haven't said and maybe the things that we haven't been, you know, how this scene was influenced by this and this, you know, it's just, we don't necessarily see it, but the fact that you see it, it means a lot.
It strikes moods.
Thank you.
Like,
thank you.
It was amazing. And so,
I've been very blessed to work with some incredible people. You know, my director of photography, Jody Williams, man, one of the greatest in the game. And there's only one project that I've done that I haven't worked with him. And he was, you know, when I first started directing Empire, he was the DP. And, you know, when B-Boy Blues and The Lost Holiday. And so and all my music videos, you know, the video that we did, Freedom, with Cynthia Erivo and Tika Sumter, that was Jody, and Hurt People that we shot in South Africa, that was Jody. And I'm so grateful for him because he really has become, you know, like a brother, like a big brother in a sense. And I don't say that, you know, lightly because I love my blood brother so much. In the sense that I can give him all of these, you know, ideas and all of these references. And I remember there was a scene, the very first scene in B-Boy Blues, where Mitchell and Raheem first kiss. That was shot in my apartment in Harlem. And I wanted it to look like I always visualized recreating this photo by Kerry James Marshall.
Mm.
And when I tell you, by the time we were done with it, you could look at it and you could say, wow, this is, so we base things on paintings. We base things on, poems that, it'll, be like, I want this to look like how this feels. Sound of Music is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I remember there was a scene that I was directing
The Hills Are Alive.
with the Sound of Music, okay? With songs they have sung for 1,000 years.
Okay.
But no, it was a scene with Terrence and Taraji, and I wanted it to look exactly like the scene where Captain Montrap and Maria fell in love.
Okay.
And when you see that scene, it looks exactly like it.
Mm.
Like he knows how to capture the vibes, and we know when the tone is right. And he's really one of the people that showed me, the lenses, and between him, John Singleton, and Millicent Shelton,
Mm.
and Senator Henry, they really were the ones that, showed me. Obviously, I was influenced by so many incredible directors that I've been honored to work with, but those were the folks that took me and said, okay, so these are the lenses, these are the shots, these are the frames, and really taught me and absolutely mentored me in that way.
So a lot of people think they know who Jussie Smollett is.
You think you know, but you have no idea.
But they don't know.
They don't know.
Do they know about the fact that you was modeling at the age of 4? Do they know this?
They might.
Do they know that you and your brothers and sisters had a whole show that was about the 5 of y'all?
They might.
Okay, I don't know. Well, let's talk about it.
Do they know I was on the cover of the Life cereal box at 7?
Were you really?
Do they? Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Glasses, holding a bowl, like that. Yeah.
I didn't know. What's funny too is you do not look like you looked as a child.
Do I?
Most people, you can sort of, I was looking at the picture today. I was like, I would not think, oh, that's a young Jussie Smollett.
Really?
When you, especially
what picture you look at?
You from Mighty Ducks.
Oh, that's interesting. What about when I have a lot of hair?
When you still.
Really?
I think you, because
I swear I ain't had no surgery.
Because your face is so chiseled though.
Oh, thank you very much.
And you had so much baby fat as a kid.
I did.
So that's what throws me so much. I was looking at the picture trying to find the Jussie that I know in there, but I didn't.
Well, we had to.
Okay, so like we talk about
to get on a treadmill.
We talk about beginnings. How did you tell me? Everybody knows you have brothers and sisters.
Yeah,
right?
There were 4 of us to start. And it was JoJo, Jazz, myself, and Journey.
Okay.
And I was 4 years old. And like so many kids, particularly little Black children growing up in the 80s and 90s, right. we loved the Huxtables. And it was, my older sister Jazz really wanted to be Rudy's friend.
Okay.
And so she would kind of like hound my mom. And, my mom, I always joke, is, it was a cross between, Fraulein Maria and The Sound of Music with like the best parts of Cookie Lion, you know? And she was just so loving and still is, but was always celebrating us and always, having us put on shows and, marching us around like we were the Von Trapp family singers, but with no intention of putting us in the industry.
Right.
It just was fun. And she was a theater kid growing up when she was growing up. So she loved that, but it wasn't anything trying to do it as a profession. And then Jazz is really the one that called up NBC and said, I want to play Rudy's friend.
She just
back when you could like call 411
right,
and be like NBC,
right.
And of course, nothing happened. But then we kept walking. We would go and be in the city. We lived in Elmhurst, Queens, and we would go and we would walk in the city, and people would stop us and they'd be like, your kids should model. And my mom was always like, get away from me with that lady.
Right.
Get away from me.
Right.
And everybody would beg her and beg her and beg her. And then one day, for whatever reason, we went on a casting call, and all through 4 of us got commercial agents, and we started working like crazy. I remember we were in there was one time we auditioned for the Huxtables to to be tap dance. So it was like a tap dance episode or something. And we auditioned for it. And that was kind of our first time really auditioning for something other than commercials.
Right.
And I remember we didn't get the role. My mother said, yeah, they can tap.
Couldn't none of y'all tap.
We ended up getting a tape, little VH step. VHS tape where it's like shuffle step, shuffle step, shuffle step, stomp, shuffle step. And
Well,
we practiced and practiced and practiced.
though.
I mean, I can tap a little bit now. I mean, you know, I'm taking lessons now. But we went on it. We didn't get it, but we stayed for hours. And it was one of those things like back in the day in Fame where it was like you. It was really a dance audition. Mm-hmm. And we were walking through the lobbies a little dejected, and Lisa Bonet walked out. And she told my mom that she wanted us to come and be in a video that she was directing for this new artist that was her husband named Lenny Kravitz. And it was his very first music video called Let Love Rule. And we were in that. I mean, it's so interesting because even telling that story, that's really what led me to want to be a musician. I also think Lenny Kravitz doesn't get enough like credit for the way that he opened up, as so many had before him, but he opened up the world, I believe, for what it meant to be a young Black man. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Of like, there wasn't one way to be. Yeah. And it was so beautiful. And I just think that from that moment on, I was just like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna really do. Okay. I'm gonna do that.
Okay, so now your sister, she's on Full House and it's on a regular. And then so Mighty Ducks is what your first, is that your first big?
My first thing was actually, my first real acting thing was a show called True Blue in New York. And I played Darnell Williams' son. That was the first thing I did. And then we moved to, we flew to Los Angeles. My first time going to Los Angeles was to network test for a show named Amen.
Was you about to be the little boy?
The little boy, yes. I did a network test. It was my first time on an airplane. I flew out to LA with my mother. We stayed at the Universal Sheraton. And she was like, we're gonna get out here. We're gonna come to LA. And within about a year and a half, 2 years later, we were in LA. I booked the Mighty Ducks. No, I booked a film called Little Piece of Heaven with Kirk Cameron and Cloris Leachman. And then I booked Mighty Ducks. Then Journey booked Full House, and then the producers of Full House, and then we started being managed with my mom by Suzanne DePass, and then, you know, Suzanne brought us into ABC, and we got a holding deal with ABC, and, you know, they wanted to give Journey a show. And my mom said, I can't, like, I'm running around with too many kids. Yeah. And she told our agent, she said, the only way that one of these kids is doing a TV show is if they put all of them in it.
And there
and then they did. So, there goes. So you're like, all right. Yeah. So that's where that came from. So
what was that experience like? Do you remember?
I do. It was great. It was wonderful. Those were Mighty Ducks was really, really a difficult shoot for a lot of different reasons, but the kids were great. And Emilio Estevez was great. The TV show was still to this day one of the best experiences of my life.
Really?
Like of my like creative life. Because getting to work with the majority of the cast is your family.
Right.
We had our dressing rooms, like they knocked down the wall, so all 6 of the dressing rooms were all connected. Like it was good fun, and it seemed like this was just the family business, you know, and there wasn't anything too much different, although there were pressures and of course like that and disappointments and all of that type of stuff. But my mother always used those moments as like a life lesson, you know? So my mom is so funny. We were going into ABC in front of all of these Caucasian executives, and she had us performing Shut 'Em Down by Public Enemy. Oh. I'm not kidding. There is tape, y'all. There is tape of us performing Shut 'Em Down by Public Enemy. Ask Suzanne DePass, call Bob Boyette, call them, because we would go in there and my mother was so militant. Still is. But I look back on that and we joke about that still to this day. I'm like, why were we going in there? And we I like Nike, but wait a minute, the neighborhood's supposed to put some money in it. Like, what? What are we doing? But, you know, they loved it.
What I love about it is that you still have a memory of this stuff. I sort of met you more so through Raven, because I would come into the dressing room when I first started working with you. I work with Raven, and then you'd be on
And I'd be
FaceTime.
creeping over there. Yep.
Then you'd be on FaceTime, then you come by when you was coming to the show. And so that's how I really got to know you. But I know one thing about Raven is she has like blackout memory. She don't remember a lot of the stuff.
She was also such a baby, though.
Yeah.
Like, she was such a baby, and she was the only one. You know what I mean? Like, so she was doing it, but because the other siblings were doing it, I think that that's what's different, is that we have those conversations. So those memories don't necessarily go away because they're talked about, you know? And so they weren't just something that happened and then you're done with it. So, I don't know. I mean, there certainly are things that I have blacked out. Lord knows that.
Right.
but there are also definitely, for the most part, I do remember the good, great times of that.
Gotcha. So then you have this break. So what are you doing in this meantime? Because you do that and
Becoming gay.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. let's talk about you becoming gay.
So what were you doing?
What was you
Up to
doing?
adulthood.
What was you
When
doing?
you got back in the industry?
Becoming gay.
I got out of the business, man, at like 13 years old, and I was just like, I didn't really want to do it anymore.
What was it? What was your decision?
I just felt like I was going through the transition of no longer being like the cute little kid, but I also didn't know that I wanted to continue to act. I really wanted to just do music, you know, and you know, then as time went on, I went to school. I worked every job imaginable.
So Jussie Smollett had a regular job? What was some of your regular jobs? What was you doing?
I worked at Banana Republic.
Come on.
I worked at Macy's. You sure did. I worked at Macy's. Would you like to open up your Macy's card today?
So you could get your extra 10%.
Well, but see, that's the thing. I was a real one, because I'd be like, would you like to open up your Macy's card? I'd be like, don't open up that Macy's card.
But then you
I'm like, look at the APR.
But then weren't you getting some money from it? You didn't care.
It wasn't. It was like, I think it was like $7 or something like that, which is great. But I also saw these people, and I remember how it would be, I just thought that it was wrong. Like, you trying to get these people into debt.
True.
I'm like, girl, use that credit. You use that debit card.
I
Use the cash. Our proudest job that I had is Artists for New South Africa. I worked for Artists for New South Africa for about 5 years.
And
I was the fundraiser. We were an organization that started off as Artists for Free South Africa during apartheid. And then once Mandela became president, it became Artists for New South Africa, and really concentrated on people infected or affected by HIV/AIDS here in the States and in South Africa. So I was raising money and like helping to put together delegations with, you know, Alfred Woodard and Sam Jackson and you know, Jussie Smollett. And people like that. And Journey went on a delegation and met Nelson Mandela. It was just, you know, we got so many, you know, life lessons from working with that place, because when I was 16 is when we first started volunteering with them. And then when I was in my early 20s, I started working for them. And Sharon Gelman, who was the executive director, and, you know, LaTanya Richardson Jackson. I would just see all of these powerful, particularly these powerful Black women coming into the office and just being like, this is how we're going to get this aid to South Africa. This is how we're going to help the children of KwaZulu-Natal. This is how we're going to build that well. This is how we're going to, and it just reminded me of all of the years of seeing my mother do that. But most of the time, my mother was alone, and seeing how they were doing their part, I personally think helped shape kind of what we, you know, always wanted to be and represent and make sure that we were doing ours as well.
Gotcha. Okay, so earlier you said you was being gay. So since you was being gay,
What do you mean?
since you said you was being gay, let's talk about like your whole coming out. Like
Let me cross my legs now.
Okay. So you like, how old were you? What was this experience?
It was interesting.
Like how old were you when you realized like, oh, I feel different from everybody else?
Oh, that's a really good question. I feel like I always felt different, but I didn't know what that difference was. You know, I felt artistic, you know, very artistic. So it could easily be that. And then when it wasn't until I got older that people were like, you know, there were certain rules that you had to have, you know, like I remember, like if I said like this in front of my father,
Really?
like, you got a dick and ball between your legs. I'm like, I know I stand up and I know it. Like, I know. I
Right.
know what it is.
Right.
And then, you know, little things like, you know, if you cough or if you laugh, you know, you can't laugh like this or cough like this. It has to be like this, which ours looks like, whatever, but we cool. Whatever.
Right.
But, you know, it wasn't always easy. And as I think as, you know, we're conditioned as, particularly as Black men, but particularly as little Black boys, we're conditioned to be a certain way, you know, and if that sways in any way that is different, then there's something strange. And to be quite honest, that doesn't always come from our people. You know, our people kind of tend to get the short end of the stick on a lot of things, but also kind of get bogged down with this idea that we are just so much more homophobic than the rest of the world. But when in actuality, homophobia is in fact a global pandemic, you know? And so it was just difficult. And so I learned certain ways to mask it. I learned certain ways to be another version of myself, if you will. And at some point you just get tired, you know?
And you have the whole girlfriends and all that.
I did, and I really like my girlfriend that I had. I was very much so attracted to her. I was very much so, you know, into her. I don't consider myself bisexual, which I absolutely believe, you know what I mean, and respect people who do consider themselves bisexual. My whole thing is that when I love someone, I love them. And the thing is, like, if I love you, I'm only gonna love you. So there was no thing of like looking another way, and that's the truth. But then that's when you are a teenager. That's when you are, you know, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And then, you know, you start to have, I guess, experiences, and you start to meet new people and people that kind of open up your mind of like, oh, what could I, you know? And then it was like, yeah.
So it's already hard enough. It's already hard enough within your family, right? But you've been in entertainment. Now, did you consider it at the time? Because you had also quit. So were you thinking, when I go back, or did you ever think you would go back?
What's interesting is that I remember hearing from an executive, about another actor. And they said, well, yeah, because he's gay. And then they were like, well, what's he gonna do? Do Broadway? And I was like, hold the hell up. Because I absolutely wanted to my entire life do Broadway. Absolutely wanted to do theater my entire life, but I don't want to be told that I am going to do theater because, you know what I'm saying? Just because with theater, I think that it doesn't matter so much, you know, who you are, because what matters most importantly is your talent and like what you bring to the role, and the fact that, you know, all that matters is what we see when we're watching you on that stage. And the moment that you are off that stage, it really is not our business. Now, because we're more in like, we're so deeply in celebrity culture, then sure, it's probably different now. But back then, at least, and I can't really say that that is factually the way that it is. Like a Broadway actor from the 90s would have to tell me that that's the way that it was, but that's the way that we perceived it to be. And so when we heard that, I just remember hearing that, and that kind of stuck in my head as a kid of, oh, so I couldn't do necessarily all of the things that I wanted to do. I couldn't be Lenny Kravitz if I was gay. You know what I mean? I couldn't, you know, I couldn't. And I definitely think that, you know, set and kind of stayed and marinated in my mind. So when I was starting to I remember thinking, what are some things that I can do that are creative, but are still in the space of the industry that I want to be in without having to be in front of the camera, you know? And I remember at 16, I became Journey's publicist.
Really?
For 3 years, I became Journey's publicist, booked her on The View. Sure did. Booked her on Rosie, booked her on Regis and Kathy Lee.
Look at you.
I knew all of my peoples. Bella Skakel over at Rosie, like I knew all of my peoples.
He was doing it.
Yes, but nobody knew that it was her brother.
Right.
It was Derek Campbell from Heat Entertainment.
Oh, come
They
on.
didn't know that it was her 16-year-old brother.
You done gave up your alias. Now everybody knows.
I mean, that alias don't exist no more. He retired. So
you done gave up the
it's
alias.
all good. It's all good. No, I mean, all of those people now know because they would usually find out once I would accompany her to the places.
Gotcha.
You know, but yeah, I worked as her publicist for 3 years. I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do and what I was going to do and what my position and my place was within the world, so to speak. And really kind of found my light in service. And that somehow became, because the first thing I did back was, in fact, was it the Skinny?
Which was going to be my next question. How did you meet Patrick Ian Pope? And were you nervous about doing the Skinny, which was a gay role? Were you out at that time to your family?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. By that time, I was like, oh, fuck.
Okay.
By that time, the world had slightly opened up.
Gotcha.
You know, by that time, there had been a Noah's Ark, you know.
Now, so for those people that don't know,
Mhm.
tell them what the Skinny was about, like what the movie.
Y'all, what was the Skinny about? I really don't
It was
remember.
about a
It was
group of
about a group of friends who had a weekend.
Yeah,
who had a
weekend.
weekend in New York during New York Pride, and they were all ex-classmates from Howard. No, not from Howard, from Brown University.
Yes.
And how I met Polk, I was supposed to do Blackbird.
Ah.
That's what it was. I was supposed to do Blackbird, and I think he had put out a casting for that and put it out online. And I was just like, yo, I would love to, you know, try for the role. I knew the book, and the characters were named differently. He was like, oh yeah, I want to see you for the character of Randy. I think that was the name. And then I was like, but that wasn't the name in the book, or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but I was like, I want this character.
Right.
And he's like, it's the same character, fool. So we started working on the script and everything like that. And then, like so many independent films do, it lost its funds.
Right.
And so we went, you know, our separate corners, and I went a couple years, hadn't spoken to him. And then the Skinny came around, and he reached out to me and said that he wanted me to read for Magnus, and I did, and I got the role. We shot it over the summer in New York City, and I met some of my lifelong friends from that film.
Yeah.
Between Anthony Burrell and Jeffrey Boyer Chapman and Blake Youngfountain and Shanika, like Warren Marklin, who are just Jania Frederick. Like, these are people, Dustin, like these are all people that I know, you know, and have had friendships for over a decade with. So I'm forever. And look, every once in a while, somebody still comes up to me and says about how much they love the Skinny. And it does feel like a blast from the past, because sometimes you forget the roles that you've done that maybe weren't necessarily, you know, like big deals, but it still meant something to somebody. Like it has that kind of that cult following that is really cool. It's really cool I've been able to be a part of a couple of projects that have had like super cool, you know, cult following, either big cult followings like Empire or small cult followings, but either way, it shows you that what you've done has sort of, you know, touched people in a way.
Okay, so how did you meet Lee Daniels, and how did Empire come?
You know, it's so funny. Lee Daniels introduced the Skinny at the premiere.
Oh.
No, let me rephrase that. Lee Daniels gave an award to Patrick at the premiere of the Skinny.
Okay.
And I was sitting next to my mother, and Lee said something to the effect of, you know, Patrick is so brave with the stories that he tells about the LGBTQ community. And Lee said something to the effect of, you can find this video somewhere, but he said something to the effect of, I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. And my mother whispered to me, she's like, he's gonna work with you. And I was like, oh my God. I said, Mommy, please, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed, Mommy, please. And I didn't meet him that night because he introduced the film started, and he bolted out.
Gotcha.
And then about 3 years later, there was my sister Jazz sent me the headline that, and by that time I had, slowly gotten back into it. I had done, an episode of like the Mindy Project and stuff like that. And, and another couple of indie films. And my sister sent me the headline from Variety that says Lee Daniels is doing a hip hop drama for Fox. And I hit up my managers and I was like, yo, what's good? And they sent me the script and they said, read the script and tell us which character you want to play. Read the script and I'm like, of course, I am the gay ass singer. That's good. So I'm very much so like, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. So I ran to my DM and I DM'd him like all of these pictures and my EP that had come out. And I said, Mr. Daniels, I just want to tell you, I'm a musician, I'm an actor, I'm a songwriter, I'm a singer, and I am Jamal in more ways than one. He wrote back, casting will be in touch, peace. Like so cool.
generic.
Just cool as a cucumber.
Exactly.
So I'm like, and by that time I had already had an audition when he responded, but I had written him like days prior. And he wrote me the day of my audition and was like, casting will be in touch, peace. And I said, yes, sir, I'm going to see them today. So I went and I saw Leah Daniels Butler, who is my heart, who's his sister. Leah does not get enough credit for the careers that she has helped launch, and it would be, nobody would deny the fact that that woman gives opportunities and allows people to truly be able to shine and show their talent in a way that is so special, and I'll forever be grateful to her. He was in Japan or somewhere at the time, publicizing, what was the movie? The Butler.
Okay.
And so when he came back into town, I was leaving and from the audition, and Leah said to me after I'd sang, she said, you wrote to my brother? I said, yeah. And she said, no. And she said, we want to see you come back. So I went back, and this time I met with him, and he said, you wrote me, didn't you? I said, yes, sir, I did. He said, that was a smart little cookie.
That's a good impression.
I sang X Factor by Lauryn Hill. And then he said, okay, so, and every time that I sang a cappella, I close my eyes. And so he says, okay, so this time do it again, but open your eyes. And so I start singing, I'm like, it could all be so simple. And slowly, I feel my eyes start to close again. I sing the rest of the song with my eyes closed. And so after that, he was like, thank you. And I left, and I was like, I lost the role. I lost the role because he sees that like he's gonna think that I don't know how to be directed.
Right.
He gave me some clear ass direction, and here I am, and I'm just like, so it is what it is. But then he ended up calling me personally, and he said, I'm sold on your acting. I'm sold on your voice. I'm not sold on you as a performer because I didn't see you perform. And he says, when you sing, keep your eyes open. So I had to go back in there and I had to sing Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke. And I went in there and then came back to do the network test. I auditioned 7 times. It was between myself and 2 other amazing actors. And Terrence walked in, Taraji walked in. Taraji and I clicked immediately. And Terrence walked in, he's like, what is Jamal? What are we doing?
Oh my God.
He's like, what we doing, man? It's Jamal. You're like getting the role. And I remember Taraji being like, weirdly, he's getting this role. He's getting this role. I'm gonna tell Terrence. Terrence, we're not doing this unless Jussie gets role. And Terrence like, oh, I ain't said all that. But yeah, I ended up getting the role.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and I went that morning that I would find out, and I went to the beach and I just meditated for 4 hours. And I think the best thing about it was that I never prayed for the role. I prayed and I said, whoever is supposed to get the role, let them get the role.
Okay.
But I believed that I knew that I wanted it, and I believed that it was mine. And so I got it.
So when you look back over Empire, what's the most impactful thing that comes to your mind about that time? Because were you ready for the fame? Were you ready for all?
I definitely wasn't ready for the fame. I was ready for the hard work. I was ready for that, always have been. That didn't faze me, the hard work. I was not ready for that level of, it's not that I wasn't ready for the fame, I wasn't ready for like the scrutiny.
Right.
Like, damn, we gotta talk about this again?
Right.
You know, of thinking somehow that once you say something, that takes the power out of it. And now.
Well, what were you talking about?
Well,
then?
somehow, you know, by that time, I was already in my early 30s.
Right.
So, you know, it was.
But you looked like a baby then. You really was.
I mean, you know, moisturization nation.
Listen,
okay.
but you know, it don't always work out for you light skins.
You know what?
It don't always work out
But
for you.
I got
but
melanin.
It worked out for you.
But I got melanin.
Okay.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
You got
Okay.
a
I'm
yellow on the
caramel.
tone. I
I'm
see it.
caramel.
I see it.
So I don't even know what you're talking
It don't
about.
always work
But
out
you're
for y'all,
right.
but it
It
worked
don't
out for
always
you.
work for those light
Right.
skins. It don't.
You're right.
Right.
It don't always. But it worked out for you for real. And I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I hate your ass. I'm going.
So continue.
I was certainly ready for the hard work. It was something that I had been preparing for, I believe, my entire life. Because that wasn't my first time at the rodeo. That was just my biggest rodeo that I had ever been to.
Right.
But that wasn't my first time at the rodeo. You know, we had very real success prior to that. So it's just that was like.
That was everywhere.
Like I was fine just being, you know, just working.
Right.
I was fine with working, and I did not know what to expect with the show. We knew that we had something special when we were making it, but we didn't know that it was going to be a hit like that. I knew that it was going to be critically acclaimed because of the people that were behind it. Because Lee Daniels and Danny Strong were behind it, and they had just come off of the Butler, and you know, and then it just seemed like they were packing it with all of this stuff first season of, I'm like, this is going to be great. But there was no way to see the way that it would change kind of the trajectory of, you know, and obviously let's give credit where credit is due. Shonda Rhimes planted a lot of those seeds prior to Empire coming on board of having Black leads and having shows where they were universally connecting with people.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't, I definitely always I remember after Empire aired, I saw her at something, and I was just like, yo, you deserve so much of the credit of why we are, because we also, and I'm not scared to say this, like we follow the kind of the path, the pattern of the way that they did social media, of the way that they were like so engaging with their, the way that like
and
Kerry Washington and the whole cast would be, you know, Guillermo would be, and all of them would just be tweeting back to the fans. And I was like, that's so dope. I remember tweeting to them a long time ago, just like, you know, I'm sitting there tweeting just because I'm a fan of the show. And they tweeted back, and I thought that was so cool of them to do. And so we definitely, for myself, I certainly followed that pattern of engaging the fans in a way that they feel like they are invested in this project, because they're the ones that's watching it.
Right.
So, you know, Shonda Rhimes created a space, I believe, that made it be okay for us to expand on that in a network television setting. For that, I'm just like,
it is
Lady Rhymes, you know. But I think that Empire changed things for so many different reasons as well. And I think that I was a part of it, so I don't really think that I have to be the one to say how it changed things. I think that other people would have to be the ones to say that. But
how much of the music did you write?
A lot of it. The ones that I'm involved in, a lot of it.
Oh, wow.
A lot of it. Jim Beans, again, we had dope people, man. Like we had people that were very, very unselfish, and Jim Beans did not have to be as welcoming. Jim Beans was our producer for literally like 90% of the songs that were in season 1.
Because the turnover rate at like having to have the music at the same time as the show, didn't that feel a little hectic? Because it felt like
it.
did for
I
real.
loved it. And also
Because you're
keep in
sort of
mind,
having to make the song fit the role. So how are you like? How soon are you doing that? Like if it's like whatever the character's doing, and he's giving you the script, and how long do you have that y'all have to make the song, to fit the whole situation?
well, it would depend because sometimes there wouldn't be a storyline that had to have a song that was connected to the storyline every single episode. But season 1, there were a lot of songs that had to be connected to the immediate storyline. So we started off the first episode. I didn't have any say in the writing. That was the pilot. And I think that my only songs were like Good Enough and another song with Yaz. But then I had already had my album was done, but I couldn't release it once I booked Empire. And I was gonna release it independently. So my producer and I had already been doing that. And then we had to pull it and not do anything. We also had to pull down my EP that had already been up for a couple of years.
Wow.
Because it was still that thing of kind of those American Idol type of days where we just had to be for the show,
Okay.
and look, I mean, when we got that opportunity, we were like,
I can let it go.
I can't release my independent album that I don't have $1,500 even to make a music video, and you telling me that I can't put it out right now, you gonna pay. Okay. And then as time goes on, you get a little restless and you're just like, I really want to release my music because you are starting to sing so many songs that are related directly to a storyline and you're not necessarily connecting to it for yourself. But for the first season, I wrote I Want to Love You, and David Ott, my producer, produced it. And I think All of the Above was all me and David. I think there were like 3 songs in the first season that were all me, but then there were other songs that Jim Beans, who was producing under Timbaland's company, that he brought me in on, that would be like, yo, I'm writing a song and, it's going to be a song, I don't know what it's going to be, but blah, 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 blah. And it ends up being You're So Beautiful. And then we submit it. So then they end up choosing, they're like, this would be perfect for this storyline. And then they had me go back in and add the moment of this, the kind of song that makes a man love a man, because that wasn't originally in there. Originally, that song was written for Gabby. And like just...
Wait a minute, Gabby was she supposed to be singing in this?
No. That song was written by me and Jim about Gabby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like it was written about Gabby because one of our favorite songs was All About That Bass by Meghan Trainor. And I was just like, I want to make a song for like a black girl that got by. Like a thick girl, you know what I'm saying? And so that's really what it was. And we both, Jim and I, we wrote it about her. I said that from the beginning. And then, it was just all of these things. But yeah, they were they were wonderful as far as being welcoming and open to celebrating. Honestly, I don't know what the other artist experience was, but I know for myself, the experience was very good as far as being included in the writing and the kind of at least the first couple of seasons. Then after a while, you kind of like, sing what y'all give me.
Gotcha.
But I still love the songs.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask about a film you did that you didn't have a large part in, but it was still a very impactful. I loved the movie and was glad to see you in it. Was Marshall, and I wanted to ask, how was it working with Chadwick, and what do you remember most about him?
I've never spoken about Chadwick. I haven't spoken about Chadwick since he's become our ancestor. The dude was one of the kindest people that I had ever met. And again, just very welcoming, very like arms wide open, just very welcoming. Every time I saw him at an award show or a screening for Marshall or anything like that, he was just a really, from what I experienced, a genuine human being. So, and I have many friends who were super close to him, closer than I had the opportunity to get. And they all say that and kind of confirm that he was just an A1 human being, just a really, really sweet guy. you know?
Were you excited just to be a part of that though? 'Cause I love like historical films, and especially of people that have made such impacts like Marshall. So for you to be able to play Langston Hughes, what was your thoughts when you got that opportunity?
It was a dream because I always said that I wanted to play Langston Hughes.
Oh, really?
And when I was a little kid, I was so angry because I wanted a middle name, and my mother bought me The Ways of White Folks. My mother bought that for me. My mother bought that for me when I was 7 years old.
Man, that's crazy that your mother bought that for you.
Like, why am I reading Cora Unashamed at 7 years old?
Mind you got a white daddy, right?
But he also, number one, well, we'll get on my father because we'll talk about that in a second. That's a whole other story. And it'll make sense once I explain a little bit more. So I used to have people say that my middle name was Langston. So everybody would say that my name was Jussie Langston Smollett. I even changed, like on my birth certificate, went and changed and put Langston as my middle name because I wanted my middle name. I wanted a middle name. I wanted it to be Langston because I love Langston Hughes. And I was performing at the Image Awards one year, and the great Reginald Hudlin came up to me and said, I'm doing this film with Chadwick Boseman as Thurgood Marshall. And I was like, yeah, I heard. That's amazing. And he said, I have a role for you. And I was like, I'll do it. He's like, don't you? I was like, I'll do it.
I'll do it.
Because I would do anything to work with him, and Chadwick, and Sterling K. Brown was in it. And, you know, just really, really great. Josh Gad, there was great actors in this. And then he said, I want you to, he's like, it's just a cameo. It's like, all right. And he's like, and I'm thinking somehow, I'm like, he's gonna ask me to play a singer. And then he said, I want you to play Langston Hughes. And I'm like, you ain't got to tell me once.
Right.
So flew to Buffalo, did it, 1 day of work. Chili from TLC played Zora Neale Hurston. Like, when I saw the call sheet, and I'm like, Rosanda, what? Rosanda, ain't that chilly? and it was good times, man. Like it was great times. I got to work with, you know, Keisha Sharp and Chadwick, and it was great. Andra Day actually was playing a singer in the scene that was a Billie Holiday type of singer. So it was,
She couldn't get away from that
good
role.
times. Hey, she got the voice.
Okay.
She got the voice. I mean, it was made for her.
So does that mean you probably getting ready to do a biopic on Langston Hughes?
I don't know.
Will I get the credit as
I mean,
producer since I said him at this point?
You know what's so funny is that I told Reggie when I said that, I said, I'll do that on one condition, if someday we do a Langston Hughes project. And he said, deal, but we'll see. I mean, look, there are so many roles that I want to do, but I also feel like all of the roles that I want to see be told don't always have to be played by me.
Gotcha.
I've had the honor of playing Langston Hughes, so I wouldn't be, look, if a Langston Hughes project came to me, I'd snatch it.
I'll do it.
You know? But at the same time, it's not necessarily, if someone else had that opportunity to play Langston Hughes, I would just be happy to see the Langston Hughes story finally truly be told.
Right.
You know?
Okay, all right. So how did B-Boy Blues come about?
B-Boy Blues, for the longest time, James Earl Hardy had been, oh my gosh, I have to rewind. Maurice Jamal.
Oh,
yeah.
The late.
Rest in peace to the late, great Maurice Jamal. Maurice Jamal, he was originally going to direct the film version of B-Boy Blues about like a decade, 12 years, maybe 12 years ago. And I want to say it was right after I did the Skinny. No. It was right before I did the Skinny, because I remember going into the Skinny and being like, this kind of like B-Boy Blues. I was like, Magnus Mitchell, Ryan, Raheem.
Right.
What? You know what I'm saying? So I auditioned to play BD in the original B-Boy Blues film that Maurice Jamal was. I auditioned opposite Benjamin Patterson, who was going to play Babyface. And then the film didn't end up getting done. So then they did a play.
Yeah, I remember.
You know, and I auditioned to play Mitchell in the play, and I sent in a video of me singing into James Earl Hardy, and I didn't get it, and Delon Burnside got it.
Okay.
Who's amazing.
Right.
And killed the role. But James, then he was impressed with my voice. And he said, we've got to do something at some point. And then Empire happened. And James would hit me up and be like, you know, you're going to play Mitchell. You're going to play Mitchell. You're going to play Mitchell. Which I aged out.
Right.
You know, also, number one, I feel like I aged out.
Right.
But number two, it just wasn't, I didn't want to play. I no longer wanted to, you know, but it was so important to me that that movie get told. And I felt like, yeah, so it just kind of fell through the cracks, you know. And then so Empire happened, Empire came, Empire went, and then 2019 happened, and then I called up Samson McCormick and I said, yo, what's going on with the B-Boy Blues film? And he said, well, we're talking with some people, you know, and we don't know, you know, what's happening exactly. I think it was like something like they wanted to shoot in Canada or something like that, and they weren't really going to give the budget. And then I said, I'll finance it myself. He said, do you still want to be in it? I said, no, I want to direct it. I want to produce it. I want to finance it. And I want all new actors to come and be in it. So, of course, we wanted DeLon to play Mitchell.
Oh, really?
Absolutely wanted DeLon to play Mitchell. But he was just blowing up with Pose, and like it was also at a time during COVID where you know, sets were not letting you just go from set to set.
Exactly.
Like, you gonna do this, you guys to be with us.
Yeah.
And we cast the wonderful Timothy Richardson, and we just developed the script, because it was so important for the script to reflect and make everybody feel, from a current perspective, the way that we felt when we first read the book, you know, and without losing. So how can we make it current while still making it where people don't feel like we cut out the
heart of
the realness and the heart of what it represents? So I decided very, very hard that it was just going to be a love letter to Harlem. It was going to be a love letter to,
which, if you live in Harlem,
because I lived in Harlem, and I always wanted to live in Harlem.
You was right at
in
my
2019,
corner. You was right on my corner all the time.
I moved right up there, and I was just like, I moved up there, and I was like, this is what the world is supposed to be. These are the people. These are the only people that matter. Like, this is love. This is joy. This is all of these things. And Harlem always represents. I remember I used to go up and literally just sit on the steps of the Langston Hughes brownstone. And I remember I tried to buy it. I really tried to like purchase it, and it was just like, okay, I can't afford that. Right. But yeah, it was Harlem means so much to me, and my, I don't know, aside from my family, my village is in Harlem. You know, Jarrell, who co-wrote The Lost Holiday, he's in Harlem. You know, Bevy is in Harlem. You know, like the whole Native Son family is in Harlem. Aside from most of I have really good friends that live in Harlem. So that was probably the best decision that I made out of all of it, was taking my ass to Harlem.
No, like I said, that was one of the most amazing films. I was very proud of you for that.
Thank you. And everybody was so hungry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I think that film represents to me, is like everybody was so hungry. I was hungry for my own reasons, for the things that I was going through. James was hungry for his own reasons, for the things that he was going through. All of the actors had not had the opportunity to work because it had been COVID. We shot this in October of 2020. So it was all of these things. Some of the actors were first-time actors. Taisha, who played Sunshine, she signed on to Actors Access 7 days before getting the audition and had never done anything, and that was her first role. Oh, wow. And she played Raheem's, the mother of Raheem's child.
And Lettucey.
And Lettucey
in the film.
But those are all Brandy Evans. Those were the people that I was like, we want newcomers so we can help like new Black actors rise. And if you look at the actors that it was their first, project doing, they are, doing so well now. But then there were also the people where I was like, I knew that I needed to have some faces in there that people knew. And I picked up the phone, I called Brandy Evans, who's one of my best friends.
From P-Valley?
From P-Valley, Mercedes from P-Valley, who literally used to be my backup dancer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a video out there. We did a music video called Get 'Em Up, and she dancing in the back, like always went full out. It ain't just Mercedes, like she always goes full out. I called up Brandy, she said yes. I called up Lettucey, she said yes. I called up Heather B, she said yes. And I called up Broderick Hunter, and he said yes. And I called up Otis Winston, who played Lettucey's husband, and he said yes. And then everybody else was cast and was just wonderful, wonderful.
Okay. And so let's get to Lost Holiday, which is about to hit Amazon. When is that?
Before the holidays, before Christmas.
She ate too much candy, so her stomach was upset. I was just trying to make her feel better. I gave her some of my jewelry and lip gloss.
Okay. What I'm saying is that it's a very vulnerable time for her right now. So temporary things like fake eyelashes could affect her permanently.
I would never put fake eyelashes on a child. And by the way, it's called mascara.
Because that's what all little girls need when they feeling low, right?
Yes, Jason. Sometimes they do. They want to play dress up and feel pretty. They want to get their hair done and put on some of mommy's mascara. Oh, that's unless you have some she could wear.
I know damn well.
No.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, before Christmas.
Okay. And then you have music coming out.
Top of the year.
Top of the year. Like, what's top of the year?
Probably like hopefully before January's up.
Okay, that's pretty soon.
I've been saying I'm dropping this album for like 45 years though.
Okay. Well,
but I'm gonna drop it.
It was very good. I listened to it. You sent it to me. It was very, very good. It had some different vibes across it. It was like I was like, oh, he's going in this lane when I heard the first song, but then I heard the next song and I'm like, oh, this has a little departure, it has a little different vibe to it. So it was a hodgepodge.
Yes, it's a hodgepodge of vibes. A hodgepodge of vibes. It's just songs about love.
Vibes. That's exactly what it was.
It's a hodgepodge of vibes.
But tell me, how did the Lost? Well, how I keep
not to be confused with the great Queen Latifah movie.
Exactly, the Lost Holiday. But how did that come up? Which you had Jabari Red in, which is here, who will not be on camera because he tried to be funky today, but that's all right. He did an amazing job in the film. He did amazing. Because see, I remember him from just being around in Harlem, and so to see him grow and really be an amazing actor the way he showed in the film.
You saw him in DC. He played DC in B-Boy Blues too.
Yes, but which he was really good in that too. But this was such a lead role. Like he shined in B-Boy Blues, but this right here,
he was the heart of the film.
He was the heart of the film. His part was so important because it makes you have to feel the loss.
And he is the lost holiday.
Exactly. So the way he portrayed that, it really did make you feel like, oh my God. Like I'm 10 minutes in the movie and I'm sitting there patting my eye and I'm like, you ain't gonna have me over here crying. Look, looking crazy. But he did. So tell me, how did the movie come about? Who wrote the script? Chris Jarrell, which we both know is a friend of ours. Yes. And how did you get Vivica in on the whole situation? And please also, we're gonna have to talk about how you got in with Mona Scott Young. On both.
Yeah. What inspired The Lost Holiday was my mother. And I've told this story so many times on our promo tour, but it's real. My mother in the 70s as a Black woman, married into a non-Black family. And it wasn't always easy for her to navigate. Although my father was very, very, down with the cause and very militant and, stood beside her and on the marches and in her work and everything like that. It was his family who he wasn't very close to at the time. And the things that she went through, the things that I heard that she went through growing up was not cool, but she is she'll tell you it like it is, but she's also a very graceful woman and a very, wants to move past things, wants to deal with them, but wants to move past things and doesn't really have a lot of time for the bullshit. And so it wasn't until I grew up basically without a grandmother. Not basically. I grew up without a grandmother.
Gotcha.
And my mother, her mother had passed away in 1977 before she had her first child. So there was this, there wasn't a longing for us, but there was a weirdness of like, why doesn't this, like, this doesn't make sense. And it wasn't until my father passed. My father passed the day that Empire first aired on television. He passed that morning. Empire aired 9 p.m. January 7th, 2015. My father passed away 5:58 a.m. on January 7th, 2015.
Oh, wow.
And so when Empire went like that, I was like,
Couldn't even
I couldn't
enjoy
connect it. I couldn't connect that, you know, like I couldn't get.
Was your father sick? Like, is it like?
Yeah, he died of cancer.
Okay.
And so the other thing, I was shooting Empire for the first season, playing a character of someone whose father was dying, who he had issues with because of his sexuality, while in real life, my father was dying, a man that I had issues with because of my sexuality. So I was kind of going through the motions, if you will, and I couldn't connect myself to my own success. I was grieving, and I didn't know what to do with that because there were also important things that I had to do in the day, you know, in the week, in the month, in the year. And so my father passed away on a Wednesday. His funeral was on a Saturday, and I was back at work on Monday. I was grateful to be back at work because it gave me something to put myself into. But then I started doing that the whole time. And I didn't know what to do with like how I felt, because grief is like this, where one minute you're sad and then the next minute you have some success, so you're happy, or you're having a moment that makes you happy and then you feel guilty about being happy and you're just like, who am I? Like, why am I, you know, why am I happy right now? Like I should be crying in a corner, and then you're crying in a corner. You're like, I wish I wasn't crying in a corner. Right. You know, so it's very confusing, and there's no one way to deal with it. But I saw my mother, through my father's death, get close to my grandmother. And they started to heal through my father's death, even though my mother was no longer with my father and had not been in some time. And I saw that and I thought to myself, well, shit. If mommy and this woman that I now call Grand Molly, you know what I'm saying? Who I love with all of my heart and who I talk to on a regular basis now. If my mother could invite this woman into her space and be like, listen, forgiveness is important, then that means I need to deal with my grief. And that also means I need to make amends with my father for real this time. And I feel that I made amends with my father more after he was gone than when he was here. And we did talk about things. We talked about my sexuality. The last thing that he watched was Empire, you know, the pilot episode, because I was able to give him, like, show him the pilot episode. The last thing that he read was a big cover of the LA Times that said, it was a picture of me that said gay in the rap Empire. It's like, bruh. He's like, fuck this. Right. You know, but he wasn't like, fuck this. That's the whole thing, is he was just, when he found out from my mother that I was gay, he called me up and he said, and I hadn't talked to him in a couple of years, and he called me up and he apologized. And he said, I'm sorry. And I realized how difficult it must have been for you growing up. And to me, it was one of those things that you didn't know that you needed until you got it. And that's all I needed. But there still wasn't enough conversation. I think that I needed more conversation. And I know that we had those conversations after he was gone. So with that said, the Lost Holiday
Came about that way.
Yeah. And putting it into the world that I would exist in, having been in relationships with people where their mother either didn't know or didn't acknowledge that we were together, or, you know, it would always be like, oh, your friend, you know, which I always got and understood, but that didn't mean that I enjoyed it.
Right.
You know, and then thinking about my mentors from, you know, from the 80s and things like that, where it's like they were cut out of their loved ones' lives or their loved ones' legacies because their parents came back or their family came back. They weren't legally married. They weren't, you know, they're not allowed to go into the hospital during the AIDS pandemic, not allowed to go and say a proper goodbye. All of those things fed into the different layers of the lost holiday. But the main thing was my mother and seeing her forgive my grandmother and seeing the relationship that they have now. And that was really what inspired my character and Vivica's character.
Yeah.
And I was developing the film with one of the biggest producers in Hollywood. And then 2019 happened. And the producer in Hollywood said, call me when everything is okay. And so it took a long ass.
Oh, so you had already been doing, you had already.
Yeah, this was being developed since like late 2017. Came into exactly how it was going to be in December of 2017 at Jarrell's apartment, at Jarrell's house, because we have a mutual friend who had lost their son. And they were telling me the story and I was just like, this is so beautiful and so like inspiring. So all that to say, it just became like this snowball effect and we were developing it. And then, you know, it fell out of development and, but it didn't fall out of development with me. So I kept developing it and had like a little Bible of what it should be. And then called up Vivica and I said, listen, I need you to do this role. I'm asking you, so please do this role. And
did you always see her in the role?
absolutely, absolutely.
She killed the role.
Did you call him once? Ever? So keep tossing up mother's intuition. You know how better our lives would have been if you actually would have been one?
That's it. I'm taking my ass back to Detroit. Happy fucking holidays.
I just love her.
Right.
I just love her. I think that she is such, you know, the term iconic is used so often. She's the epitome of it. And she immediately, no questions asked, she said, I'm in. And then I called up Jarrell and I said, hey, we need a script.
I don't know Jarrell as a writer.
But this is the thing though. I knew Jarrell was a writer.
Okay.
And I had never read any of his stuff. I just knew that his stuff had never been produced before. But I knew that he was a writer.
Gotcha.
And the way that Jarrell, if you ever sat with him and as I know you have, like when you sit and you talk to Jarrell, the way that he tells stories, the way that he speaks, it's so like you just are drawn in. And you're just like, yeah, tell me more, tell me more. He's so interesting to me. I love him to death, but he also is just an interesting human being. And so I knew that there was something there. And I had been, you know, working so hard on B-Boy Blues and everything like that. And I was just like, Jarrell, I know that you could do this. Here is the Bible. And he turned out a first draft within a couple of months and then sent it to me and I did my pass at it and then sent it to him. And he did his pass and he sent it to me and I did my pass. And then we kept on building the script and building it and building it and building it. And then it was like a 2-hour script. So we did okay, this is enough.
Right.
We have to hear this now.
Right.
And we did a table read with Vivica and a bunch of great actors. Some ended up in the film, some didn't. And it went so good, but it was so freaking long. And Vivica, after we were done, she's like, so baby, this needs some fat. Some fat shave. She's like, you gotta trim some fat. And because the table read was literally like, it was a virtual table read too. It was like 3 hours.
Right.
It was way too long.
Oh.
And so I had to take it and like cut it down. And then, you know, as time goes on, you're trying to raise the money and, you know, you get, this person will give you this amount of money, but you have to make it more Christmassy, like more Hallmark like. So then I did another pass and I was like, made it super, super Christmassy and super, super just like, we're like really happy. This is really, and then I sent it to Jarrell and he's like, oh, it's so corny. So
I don't love it anymore.
So we shifted it back and that didn't happen. So we were able to shift it back and I was like, y'all, we just got to shoot this damn movie. And I'm like, this was in March. Mona Scott Young, who I had started working with on B-Boy Blues.
How did you even develop a relationship with Mona?
Years ago,
Because most people only know Mona from her critically acclaimed, where she was a manager for years with Missy and stuff. But a lot of people, if they don't know, she's the face behind all of Love and Hip Hop.
Yeah. But I knew Mona.
Has she done film before? Has she?
No.
Okay.
She had, I mean, she has now, but she hadn't done any, I don't believe she had done any scripted film. No, she had not done scripted films prior to B-Boy Blues. But I knew Mona from the Violator days. So I not physically knew her, but I knew who she was because music was my everything. Still is, but I studied the business back in like of the 90s, 2000s. Like I studied those people and studied every single thing that I could read, anything that I could read on Mona Scott Young, L.A. Reid, you know what I'm saying? It didn't matter. Like I would have to read it. How many times did I send the damn, tapes of me singing to LaFace Records on Peachtree Street back in the day, you know what I'm saying? Or trying to get with Bobby Brown's record company when he had Triple B Records and stuff like that. Like, I just knew all of those things. So Mona Scott Young was a legend.
Right.
And then she did Love and Hip Hop, and I met her in Atlanta. I was hanging out with I remember I was hanging out with Cynthia Bailey and a couple of the other women from the Housewives show, and Mona Scott Young just randomly popped up, and I met her. She was just funny. She's so funny. And fast forward to B-Boy Blues, I showed her another project that she really was interested in, a pilot that we had shot, and that hasn't been released yet. And she loved it. But then I said, well, yo, she's like, this is a little niche, but we need to do something with it. And then I got scared and I pulled it. But I was like, but I have B-Boy Blues. And I showed her B-Boy Blues, and she physically walked that into BET Plus and got it on.
Right.
And then you fast forward with The Lost Holiday, I was just like, yo, do you want to be a part of this from the ground up? And she said, I'd love to work with you again. And I already knew I'd love to work with her again. And then she had us meet with Tressa Smallwood from Megamind. And I'm literally in this like sandwich of Mona and Tressa, these two powerful Black women producers. And they said, we're going to do it. And we're going to go in with you, 333-111. And we're going to do it. And we were originally going to shoot it in September, but I was so bent on shooting it in June because I wanted it out for the holidays of this year. And thank God that we did, because we wrapped on June 22nd and the SAG-AFTRA strike started June 30th.
You was right on time.
Stick with me, kids.
So you was right on time. Oh my God.
And then, we did it. We shot it in 11 days. And, our premiere was at ABFF in Miami. With, Fridays have been wonderful to us. B-Boy Blues premiered at ABFF. And then The Lost Holiday premiered at ABFF. Then we went to London. We premiered in Seattle, Atlanta, LA, everywhere. And then we went into theaters, and it did even better than I thought that it was going to do in these little theaters that we were in. Small amount of theaters. I don't mean little theaters, but small amount of theaters.
Right.
And now we're going up on streaming while all of us retaining ownership.
That's what's up. Yeah, you were talking about ownership and how important that was, and that you own mostly everything that you worked on for the most part. Why is this so important to you?
Because, legacy is important, but also ownership is important because it's a long-term thing. It's just, when you think about the term perpetuity, well, you can do something with something that you own in perpetuity. And I think that I've been so afraid of anybody ever being able to snatch my livelihood from under me ever again, that I would rather do it bit by bit than to have to be owned by someone else. I don't see, and I was fighting that for a really long time, but it's so clear to me now that that is the only way probably that I can kind of operate in this space that I've been given access to via God.
So what does the future for Jussie Smollett look like? Are we gonna see more directing? Do you want to leave behind, stay in front of the camera? Where do you want to go? We know you got music coming out? Do you want to continue to do music?
I think that music will probably start to be a thing that I use more so for my film projects and my television projects and my theater projects that are being developed, because I love to make music, but I don't think that I'm a music industry person.
Gotcha.
Or a music business person. And
That's clearly what everybody says.
but it's true though, but I just don't like it. I don't really, and I'm not saying anything particularly about anybody in particular. I just feel that music to me is the most beautiful thing on the face of the planet. Music is love. It can speak in a way that nothing else can say. And to see the industry around it that's just so weird. I don't know. I'm good. That's how I feel sometimes. It's just like, I'm good. Like, no shade either. It's just, I'm good. I know now what suits me. Yeah, and I've experienced that to a certain level, and I loved it, and it was great. But you know, I'm not saying like, I'm retired. I'm making enough. No retirement.
Right.
Nothing like that. But I just mean that I think that it would be a thing. Like, I don't care to go in there and be like, recording album number 4 and I heard it all. No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. I'm good. But you know what? That could also change tomorrow, because I might wake up tomorrow and be like, I have something that I have to get out.
Right.
But as a songwriter, as a singer, as an actor, as a director, all of those things will continue in the way that they are suitable, in the way that they fit for the project that we're doing. You know what I mean? So there will be projects that I direct that I'm nowhere in. There will be projects that I act in that I'm not directing. There will be projects that I'm just producing and I'm not directing or acting in, But I'm really, my main focus right now, honestly, we have some more projects that we have to do film-wise, but I really, really, really kind of, my sights are set on theater.
Okay. Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, theater.
Mm-hmm. It's the one thing that, not
Play or
musical? Both.
Okay.
Both. I think that I would love to do a play that really, challenges me theatrically. That challenges me, let me rephrase that challenges me acting-wise, without there being a singing element to it. But also for musicals, I mean, that's a whole other beast. That's a whole other beast. And I respect the hell out of the people that do that, and that's a training of your muscle.
Yeah.
That is a different type of training of your muscle. And that is the type of stuff that excites me, So there will just definitely be more of that. But more than anything, just further growth and love and just loving on my family, loving on my people, loving on my community, and just trying to get away from all of the ugliness of the world and really trying to do my little part to make sure that I don't give in to the ugliness of the world, and I don't, I bring only to the table what is necessary.
Gotcha. Okay, so I ask everyone this question. It's my final question. I always ask people, what do they find beauty in? What does Jussie Smollett find beauty in?
That's such a good question.
You know what? When I first asked it to Raven, she said it was a horrible, dry question.
I think that's a really...
She was my very first guest, and I thought it was a great question.
No, I think that's a really good question.
What does Jussie Smollett find beauty in?
Love. I find that love is the root of everything. I say this all the time. Love is the root of everything. That love or lack of love. It's the reason why we have wars. True. It's the reason why we have greed. It's the and the way that love makes you act when it's good, the way love makes you act when it's not good.
Right.
The way when you love your job, the way that you feel when you wake up in the morning, the way when you don't love your job, the way that you feel when you wake up in the morning. Love or lack of love is the root of everything. And I find such beauty in that, because I look at people that are fully 1000% genuine, untouched love. And I see that in my nieces, and I see that in my nephew. And that kind of pure, unaffected love is what inspires me every single day. And I try my best to give that out, but I also want it in return. You know, I think we all do. And I think that, what I know for sure is that it's love.
That was very beautiful, sir.
It wasn't dry.
It was not dry.
It wasn't dry and raggedy.
The part that really was illuminating to me was the lack of love part, because when you think about it, a lot of people have reacted out of lack of love.
Yeah.
So tell us, where can we find you? What they need to be looking for? What's coming out? Is there a date for the Lost Holiday?
It'll be here. It'll be here before the holidays.
Before Christmas,
yeah,
on Amazon Prime.
On Amazon Prime.
Okay,
on Amazon
thank you.
Prime. Yes.
And be on the lookout for music.
Be on the lookout for the songs about love. It's just, it's gonna be a good one.
That's the title of the album?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
I think so. Because that's really what it is. It's just songs about, if you really listen to the lyrics, they're just about love. Like they are about love for someone, love for yourself, lack of love for yourself, love for sex, love for whatever it is, so it certainly is it's a love album. And, may we all love each other and love ourselves.
Amen.
Praise to the Lord.
Hallelujah.